throughout Lesson 3, we're going to take functions and we're going to shift them around the Cartesian coordinate system. Now, it's going to be a good idea that you know that library of functions that we talked about earlier. So if you're not familiar with those functions that we defined earlier, make sure you go back and write down the library of functions. Okay? Okay, let's start. Okay, we're going to call this lesson translation of functions. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to shift functions horizontally and vertically. So let's take a look at what I have written down. It says, let's let y equal some function. Then the function y equals f of x plus c will shift the graph of y equals f of x up c units. Now I'm supposing that c is a positive number. On the other hand, if c is a negative number, if c is a positive number and we subtract c units, f of x minus c will shift the graph down c units. Okay? So you should write this down first. Okay? You might want to pause and write that down. So we're going to shift some functions. Here's a couple examples. Let's sketch the following two functions, x squared plus 2 and the square root of x minus 3. Now again, it's very important that you know how to graph x squared and square root of x first. Okay, those are two functions that we talked about from our library. So let me recall f of x equals x squared. Remember how to sketch that function. That's just our parabola with the vertex at the origin. Okay? Now, we want to sketch f of x plus 2, or x squared plus 2. From our rule, if we add c to the end of a function, it's going to shift the function up c units. Okay? So x squared plus 2 is just going to be the graph of x squared shifted up 2 units. So we'll take x squared and we'll just shift it up 2 units. Okay? Not too difficult. Let's try the other one. Square root of x minus 3. Well, first I'm going to start by sketching the square root of x function. There's g of x equals square root of x. Now, all I'm doing is I'm tacking on a negative 3 at the end. So that means I'm going to take the square root of x and I'm going to shift that down 3 units. So I'm going to have the same shape of the graph, but I'm going to take this graph and I'm going to shift it down 3 units. And there's the square root of x minus 3. So vertical shifts or vertical translations are fairly easy. Okay, let's try looking at horizontal. Again, you might want to pause and write this stuff down. I'll go ahead and read it. Let's let y equal f of x. Then the function y equals f of x plus c shifts the graph to the left c units. And always my c is going to be a positive number. The graph y equals f of x minus c will shift the graph to the right c units. And let's take a look at a couple examples. All right, we want to sketch the following functions. First, let's look at f of x equals square root of x. Notice that f of x minus 1 is absolute value of x minus 1. Now, what does this do? If we look at our rule, f of x minus c, f of x minus 1 in this case, is going to shift the graph to the right c units. So we know what this absolute value looks like. That's one of our library of functions. That's the v. So the absolute value of x minus 1 is going to take this function and shift it to the right 1 unit. And that's all there is to it. There's the absolute value of x minus 1. Okay? And let's try to sketch this one. X plus 2 cubed. Well, again, we know what x cubed looks like. Okay. Well, x plus 2 cubed is going to be a shift to the left 2 units. So it's going to be the same function, except I'm going to shift it to the left 2 units, and it should look something like that. Okay? So let's summarize. If we're given a graph of y equals f of x, okay, say we know what the original function is, whether it be x squared or absolute value of x or what have you, and c is a positive number, then if we tack on a c at the end, it's going to shift the graph up c units. Okay? If we subtract c from the function, it's going to shift the graph down c units. F of x plus c shifts the graph to the left c units, and f of x minus c shifts the graph to the right c units. Okay? So I want you to try some of your homework problems. If you're having a little trouble, you might want to review this lecture again, or certainly come by the Polia Mathematics Learning Center, and we'll straighten you out there.